Jenna Basonko, and this is QTV News coming to you live from our studios on Kaiba Avenue. Thanks for joining us. And here are the main local, international and sports news headlines. Senior officials of Standard Chartered Bank on Thursday held closed-door talks with President Barrow on the bank's announced exit plan in several countries, including the Gambia. President Barrow on Thursday received the letter of credence of the new ambassador of Libya to the Gambia. The National Audit Office of the Gambia on Thursday launched its special audit report on the government's COVID-19 response phase 1 in the Greater Banjul area, which reveals several failings on the procurement and distribution of food and medical items. And in international news, 6 months after a military takeover, the head of the UN Integrated Transition Assistance Mission in Sudan has warned that the economic, humanitarian and security situations in the country are worsening. And in sports news, the Gambia is unlikely to play their home matches of the AFCON 2023 qualifiers at home, following CAF's decision to ban the Independence Stadium from hosting international matches due to its poor facilities. Those were the main headlines, and now the news in detail. Do stay with us. Thank you for joining us. I am Jenna Basonko and you're watching QTV News. Now, senior officials of Standard Chartered Bank on Thursday held closed-door talks with President Adama Barrow on the bank's announced exit plan in several countries, including the Gambia. However, as Aliou Cissé reports, the officials say the bank is only selling its share and that the bank will continue operating.
The visit to President Barrow comes exactly a week since Standard Chartered Bank announced on April 14 this year that it is leaving 7 countries in Africa and the Middle East where it is subscale as it seeks to improve profits by narrowing its focus on fast-growing markets in the region. The bank said it is fully exiting the Gambia, Sierra Leone, Angola, Jordan, Lebanon, Zimbabwe and Cameroon, likely by trying to sell its business share in these countries. It further announced it will close its retail banking operations in Tanzania and the Ivory Coast to focus solely on corporate banking. The move has been described as a shock and major shift for a bank that has been in the Gambia, Nigeria and Sierra Leone since 1894. Speaking to the State House Press Corps shortly after meeting the Gambian leader, Lamin Kemba Manjang, CEO of Standard Chartered Bank Nigeria with oversight for West Africa, clarifies that the bank will continue to operate despite the move by the bank to sell its share to an interested buyer.
One point that was emphasized is that the staff of the bank, there will be no adverse impact. Nobody is losing their job. There will be no redundancy. Staff will continue to have their jobs. They will continue to get all their full benefits, all the privileges that they are currently enjoying, they will continue. When the bank is sold to a new investor, the expectation is that that investor also wants the bank to do well. And the most important asset that the bank has is the people. So I'm sure the investor will also be very keen to retain the people so that he can then work with them to grow the bank to the next level. The clients also, it's important that they are given assurance. Of course, they have come to expect very high standards from Standard Chartered Bank, the professionalism, the integrity, the good corporate governance standards that we have maintained in this country. We expect that that should also continue on the new ownership.
Mr. Manjang reveals that President Barrow expressed appreciation for the visit, which is one of the steps towards an orderly process that will yield a positive outcome for the staff and customers of the bank.
First of all, the word exiting the market created some anxiety because some people thought exiting meant winding down, closing the bank and just leaving the country. So that is not the case. Standard Chartered Bank has got shares in Standard Chartered Bank Gambia, about 75% shareholding, and 25% of the shares are owned by locals, owned by Gambians. It is this 75% that is being sold to another investor, of course, very early at this stage to say who that investor will be, but then it is that shareholding that is being transferred. But as far as the operations of the bank are concerned, they will continue as is.
In terms of the time frame, CEO Manjang, who was led to State House by Alpha Barry, the bank's board chairman, And Chuks Uga, CEO, Standard Chartered Gambia, says such a process takes time and could last a year or more. Such a move is not new in the global banking industry, and Manjang reassured all that the bank will continue to operate as usual until the process is finalized. Until then, the name will remain, and it will be up to the will-be new share buyer to adopt any new name for the bank. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
Now, President Barrow on Thursday received the letter of credence of the new ambassador of Libya to the Gambia. Aliou Cisse again.
Ambassador Munsif Mohamed Huil Nasib is the latest ambassador to present his letters of credence to the president here at the State House in Banjul. Well, Banjul and Tripoli have had a long bilateral ties in diverse areas. However, the new ambassador wouldn't talk to the press. But what is certain is that Gambians will be looking forward to having the new ambassador help in promoting and advocating for the welfare of African migrants, including Gambians in Libya. Reporting for QTV News from the State House in Banjul, I am Aliou Cisse.
All right, Aliou Cisse there at the State House in Banjul. Now, the National Audit Office of the Gambia on Thursday launched its special audit report on the government's COVID-19 response phase 1 on the procurement and distribution of food and medical items in the Greater Banjul area. Now, the report reveals several failings in response. Now, Omar P. Jallo attended the event and files in this report.
Following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the National Audit Office, as mandated, carried out a special audit to track and report on government's response and measures to address the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, the NAO was tasked with recommending to government ways to strengthen its response to emergencies. In his opening statement, Karamba Toure, Auditor General of the National Audit Office, reveals that when the pandemic started, his office reminded and provided advice and guidelines to institutions of the procurement and financial regulations for public spending about improper procurement, failure to justify expenditures of missing documents, risks of fraud and theft, and significant loss of public money.
The ultimate objective of this special audit on the COVID-19 response was to track and report on government's response and measures to the COVID-19 pandemic, hold government to account in the use of public resources, and recommend ways to strengthen government response to this emergency situation as well as future emergencies. As I shared earlier in my remarks, the report we are launching today is specific to the procurement and distribution of food and medical items within the Greater Banjul area and some parts of West Coast region.
The report reveals that there were missing documents or vouchers and delivery notes, and therefore certain expenditures could not be verified. There were also delay, damage and unaccounted for items in the buying, distribution and storage of the medical, food and other items. Furthermore, purchased items were poorly managed and some were even missing. There were also inappropriate procurement and contracting processes, and certain purchases were made without planning or conducting proper assessment, leading to the wastage of public money.
We anticipate sending this phase 2 report to the National Assembly and published on the NAO website very soon. Once made public, we hope there will be increased access to the report as well as further discussions by all concerned stakeholders. The National Audit Office will be happy to join and participate in activities organized by stakeholders around the report. We understand the challenges faced by most of our stakeholders to review and understand the rather technical audit reports. And as a result, my office is working to produce most simplified versions of the audit reports, which basically will be in simple language and summarize content, including graphics. This initiative is geared towards ensuring there is more citizen-friendly audit products, which citizens can read and understand easily.
To improve the Gambia's response to the COVID-19 crisis and future emergencies, the National Audit Office recommends the government to follow procurement guidelines even in emergencies by ensuring there are clear and proper records for all spending of public money and that payments are done in accordance with the law. The second phase of the audit will cover additional distribution of food and medical items in other regions, allowances for frontline workers, support to media houses, support to overseas students, cash payment to registered tourist businesses, and workers and management of quarantine centers. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Unfortunate. Now, World Creativity and Innovation Day is commemorated on April 21st every year to raise awareness of the role of innovation and creativity in each aspect of human development. QTV spoke to some youth entrepreneurs on innovative ideas to address national issues. Ajibintu Drame has more.
The theme for this year's World Creativity and Innovation Day is collaboration. Creativity and innovation are significant in socio-economic development, particularly in today's world, to address issues of climate change and food self-sufficiency. The main idea behind this day is to push countries into creative multidisciplinary thinking at both group and individual levels. On 27 April 2017, the UN included in the commemoration of the day, raising the importance of using creativity in problem solving for all issues related to achieving the 2015 Sustainable Development Goals. Senabu Gay is a young entrepreneur and CEO of African Swag Collection. She designs Ankara or African prints to wear. She explains what creativity and innovation mean to her.
As young fashion designers, because when you talk about creativity, innovation comes, and in order to be innovative, you have to be creative. And others also do say that you can be innovative without being creative, but I think the first stage of both is to first get to the stage of imagination where you think of or where you see the impossible. And when you see the impossible, this is when you tend to create and innovate.
Using her skills to address environmental problems, Senabu won the GCCI 2022 Trade Fair Award for her magnificent creative idea of using bubble plastics to produce varieties of materials. She says the pandemic is a huge challenge which forced her to unleash her creative and innovative potential.
Had proposals to other institutions like the KMC and the Ministry as well of Education did contract the young entrepreneurs for face mask production, in which I was lucky to produce 8,000 face masks. At the society, we have so many things that we can utilize and so many things that we can transform, recycle, reduce and reuse. I made raincoats out of the air bubble bag.
World's Creativity and Innovation Day was founded on 25th May 2001 in Toronto, Canada, by Canadian Marcy Segal, who studied creativity in 1977 at the International Center for Studies in Creativity. Kumba Sinyan, CEO of Tutlinger, uses local produce to make food and hair products. She believes doing business can solve Gambian dependence on imported food. I believe Gambian youth can really produce the foods we consume rather than greatly dependent on imported food. Some use millet to produce bread and cakes, which is commendable. I use it to make local food products and I can make many items from it. I believe this can help the country and might entice other people from other countries to know how we use millet. For that to happen, the government must intervene so that we can implement our ideas. Kumba said for innovative and creative ideas to be implemented, government should help local producers produce large enough quantities of the produce to meet people's demand. This can boost the economy as it does in developed nations. The creative economy is recognized as a tool of sustainable development. If the Gambia could use the creativity and innovation potential of youth, it can change the major dependency on imported produce and boost the economy. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
Interesting piece there by Ajibintu Drame. Now we'll go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, we have some more local, international and sports news. Do stay tuned.
Santayala Aluminium. Security is key when it comes to a household. Visit Santayala Aluminium and Glass store today and experience our high-level security doors in different sizes, such as 120 centimeters, 160 centimeters, and 96 centimeters heavy-duty, both single and double doors from China, Japan, and Turkey. We also manufacture aluminum profiles for sliding doors and windows of different qualities. Not only that, we have window accessories and glasses of different types, such as blue glass, brown glass, and black glass. For your office setup, we also do office glass partition. We are located at Tabokoto along the Brikama Highway, or call us on 390-3495 or 990-3495 or 790-3495. At Santayala Aluminium and Glass Store, we aim at reaching the highest possible standards of quality.
This Ramadan, start your day with the goodness of pig to help you stay nourished through the day. Encourage acts of kindness, big or small, and share love and nourishment with everyone around you. Stay nourished from Sahur to Iftar. Ramadan Kareem.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV News, and I am Jenna Bostonko. Now, Ramadan is a busy time for tailors, as Muslims tend to wear new clothes to attend Eid al-Fitr or Korite, marking the end of Ramadan. Lolly M. Kamara visited Bakote and spoke to some tailors who are racing against time to satisfy their customers.
It is common for Muslims to buy new clothes for Eid, as it is a sunnah or tradition of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to wear something new during the holy feast. During this period, tailors are among the busiest, as the demand for new clothes increase among Muslims who want to look nice and smart on the day following the month-long dawn to dusk fasting of Ramadan. Most of the tailors spend the night at their tailoring shops to make sure they can finish garments on time for their customers. Babu Kanbai, a tailor who has been in the business for many years, says his workshop is inundated with the demand for new clothes for sewing, and he is in the race against time.
Every year, because
as we do each year, we are here again and preparing for the feast. It is not easy because everybody wants to wear new clothes on the day.
Some tailors are blamed for biting off more than they can chew just to make a more profit, while being unable to finish sewing some clothes on time. Babu Karmbai, a tailor, comment on this.
Wow, because I'm going to meet Bulanya Piakare, Purungana Yenny did it that day, how they were, because Tafam depend on if you wear good day.
When many people rely on you, it is difficult to reject some of them. Most of the customers depend on their monthly salary, which they get only at the end of the month. Thus, they bring their material at the end of the month, and that causes delay to sew them. So accepting the material is taking a risk.
Alaji Jub, another tailor, appears to be doing everything possible to satisfy his customers.
MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah. Now, you see last 10 days, why you never made the first 10 days, MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah.
I thank God we have entered the last 10 days of Ramadan. We started sewing since the beginning of Ramadan. Now, we are just completing the remaining garments.
When asked about the electricity supply, which they depend on to sew clothes, this is what both Babukar and Alaji had to say.
We just wish Nawek would continue with the way they are operating right now. If that happens, there will be no problem for us and our customers.
Normal, because although they them why do they
I will not say the electricity system is normal, because we are still experiencing power cuts. If we have a constant supply, it will really favor us, even though we have our standby generators.
Eid al-Fitr is a big and blessed day for Muslims. As such, Babukar and Alaji are optimistic that their customers will not be disappointed. For those relying on them and other tailors, the hope is that their garments will be ready on time. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
From that story by Lolly M. Kamara, now let's take a look at news beyond our borders. Now, 6 months after a military takeover, Sudan is again at a crossroads. Progress towards the democratic transition that was expected to follow the coup has stalled recently. The head of the United Nations Integrated Transition Assistance Mission in the country has warned that in the absence of a political agreement to return to an accepted transitional path, the economic, humanitarian and the security situation in the country are worsening. Mumdulamin Choi has rest of that.
6 months ago, Sudan's military, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, launched a takeover, dissolved civilian rule, arrested political leaders, and declared a state of emergency. Local protests, sanctions, and condemnation from the international community piled pressure on the military to restore civilian rule. Trapped in a complex situation, coup leader General al-Burhan declared his willingness to restore civilian Prime Minister Hamdok's cabinet 2 days after the military took over. The Prime Minister declined this initial offer, making any further dialogue conditional on the full restoration of the pre-coup system. The UN-led Volker Perthes of the German Institute for International and Security Affairs launched a mission to support a democratic transition in Sudan. Since then, there hasn't been any reported progress. Recently, the UN Sudan Transition Mission head briefed the Security Council, reporting that chances are high that the UN-led democratic process that followed the coup is about to end. In an address to the UN Security Council, Perthes also reports that the aspirations of Sudanese women and men for a prosperous, civilian-led democratic future are at risk, and that unless the current trajectory is corrected, the country will head towards an economic and security collapse and significant humanitarian suffering. These remarks have caused fury among the military regime, and in response the UN described as a hate speech. In reaction, the Sudan military leader and his colleagues have been calling for a jihad against the UN Special Representative and threatened his expulsion from the country. The forecast for an economic collapse in Sudan is increasingly becoming a reality. Food prices are skyrocketing, and further fueling the crisis in the effect of economic sanctions in the wake of the coup. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund have halted $2 billion in aid. Bearing the brunt of the disaster is the country's 45 million people who have been mounting protests demanding the military to go back to the barracks. The military responded with a heavy-handedness, with hundreds of the protesters reported killed since the coup. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, by September, the number of people facing acute hunger is likely to double and jump to 18 million people due to the economic crisis and poor harvest. With no sign of a commitment to democratic transition from the Sudan military government, the country remains in isolation. Among the diplomatic strategies by the military regime to maneuver the situation forward is the deepening of economic cooperation with an old friend, Russia, the world's most sanctioned country and perhaps the most isolated due to its invasion of Ukraine. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, QTV News.
From that, let's take a look at sports news. The Gambia is unlikely to play their home matches of the AFCON 2023 qualifiers on home soil. CAF has banned the Independence Stadium from hosting international matches due to its poor facilities. Our sports reporter Mamadou Gajaga engaged the manager of the Independence Stadium and fastened this report.
The Independence Stadium in Bakau is unfit to host international matches after CAF imposed a ban on the facility in late February. After the draw for the 2023 AFCON in Côte d'Ivoire on Wednesday, which pits Gambia against Mali, Congo and South Sudan in Group G, it is highly unlikely Gambia will be able to host its first match at the Independence Stadium. The first round matches are scheduled for 1st and 2nd June. The manager of the stadium, Ibu Fai, explains.
CAF said that so many aspects of the stadium did not meet international standards, like the pitch, as you mentioned. It needs to be replaced with a modern grass pitch, like a Bermuda grass pitch, for example, or within that family. The pavilion should be all seated, not like the way it is now. The dressing rooms should be expanded and have to meet international standard. The media tribune has to be, improve the standard.
Since it was built in 1983, and opened to the public a year later, the Independence Stadium has not undergone any major renovation. To be deemed fit the criteria of modern stadia and host CAF and FIFA games, the general facility must be upgraded.
There has never been a major rehabilitation of the stadium facilities. And stadium requires every 10 years you improve the standards, because is a public place. So without improving the standards, the tunnel will just deteriorate. And what the stadium generate cannot do those works because they are capital investment. And government have been notified so many times, but maybe the things have not worked the way it's supposed to be until we are here, and now it must be done.
According to the General Manager FAI, an assessment was conducted by the Ministry of Youth and Sports and GAMWorks. An estimated $100 million is required to fit the stadium with a proper grass pitch, seats in the stands, new sanitary system, a media tribune with modern facilities and expanded dressing rooms.
What we have done after the ban was the Ministry of Youth and Sport set up a technical committee comprising the Minister of Works, and they did an estimate about the stadium and have submitted it, which we have submitted to the ministry, and the ministry is trying to get approval from cabinet so that the works can commence and improve the standard.
The Gambia Football Federation, through its communication department, in a press release, said it has not yet reached a decision on a venue for Gambia's home match for the upcoming AFCON 2023 qualifiers. However, it noted that Senegal remains the first option in case the Independence Stadium is not ready to host the first match against South Sudan in early June. Mamudu Gajaga, QTV News.
Well, that is all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. Do join us tomorrow, same time for more news. Thanks for watching.